I have been sitting with this box for almost 30 years. Some nights I forget about it. Most nights I do not. After I got home from that station in '96, I put the box in my garage, behind a stack of drywall I never used. I told myself I would deal with it later. Later turned into months. Months turned into years. And by the time enough time had passed, it felt like it was too late to hand it over without explaining why I had kept it. So I just left it there. But I kept thinking about the files. Not all of them. Most of what was in that box I had not read. I had skimmed a few that first night at the station, and that was enough to keep me awake until morning. Over the years, though, I went back to the box, a few times a year, usually when something showed up on the news. A hiker gone missing, a search called off too soon, a body found somewhere that did not make sense. I would go to the garage, pull out a folder, and read. And every time, I told myself there had to be an explanation. Animals, weather, people making bad decisions in places that do not forgive bad decisions. I needed that to be true. The file I am going to read tonight is the one that made it harder to believe that. This is the thickest folder in the box. 3 separate documents clipped together. The first is a typed incident report on official Park Service paper. The second is a handwritten note on notebook paper, folded in half, tucked behind the report. The third is a 1-page internal memo, dated 4 months later. The incident report is from 1974, but the ranger who wrote it, he was looking back much further than that. Date of report, November 14th, 1974. Reporting officer, Ranger Machen, Station 11C, District. High Meadows District, National Forest, Colorado. Subject, recovery operation, Elkins Creek drainage, October 28th through November 3rd, 1974. On October 26th, a party of 4 male adults departed the Elkins Creek trailhead for a 3-day backcountry trip. They were expected to return to the trailhead parking area by the afternoon of October 29th. When they had not returned by October 30th, a family member contacted the district office, and a search was initiated. I was assigned as lead for the ground team. We located their base camp on October 31st at approximately 10,400 feet, in a clearing roughly 2 miles northeast of Elkins Creek, near the base of a limestone ridge. The camp was intact. Tents were standing. Gear was stowed properly. Food had been hung in a bear bag at appropriate height. There was no sign of animal disturbance. Cookware was cleaned and packed. 2 pairs of boots were placed neatly inside one of the tents. All 4 packs were accounted for at the campsite. Personal effects, including wallets, identification, and car keys, were found inside the packs. The car keys were in the front pocket of a pack belonging to the group leader. There were no signs of struggle, panic, or rapid departure. The campfire ring contained cold ash consistent with a fire that had been allowed to burn out naturally. Estimated last use, evening of October 27th, or morning of October 28th. 4 people had walked into the backcountry with everything they needed, made camp, cooked dinner, hung their food, taken off their boots, and then at some point between that evening and the following morning, left. Without shoes, without keys, without wallets, without packs. That is what the ranger wrote, word for word. 4 men walked out of their camp in the middle of the night with nothing. Now I have spent time in the backcountry. I know what it is like to be out there in October at 10,000 feet. You do not leave your boots behind. You do not leave your tent in the dark at that altitude without a reason. There has to be a reason. Maybe they heard something. An animal, maybe. Got spooked and ran. People do strange things when they are scared. That is what I told myself. But then, the ranger kept writing. Search operations continued through November 3rd. The following observations were documented by myself and members of the search team. Approximately 200 yards northeast of the campsite, the search team located the entrance to a cave system at the base of the limestone ridge. The entrance measured roughly 4 feet wide and 3 feet high. There were scuff marks on the rock at the entrance consistent with recent contact, though the surface was too hard to hold clear prints. The cave was explored to a depth of approximately 120 feet by 2 members of the search team. Beyond that point, the passage narrowed and continued downward at an estimated 30-degree angle. Airflow from the deeper passage was noted as significant, suggesting the system extends considerably further. No evidence of the missing party was found inside the explored section of the cave. At approximately 80 feet inside the cave, markings were observed on the walls. These appeared to be scratches or grooves cut into the limestone. They were not consistent with tool marks or geological features. The pattern was irregular but deliberate. Several team members noted the marks appeared to run deeper into the cave beyond the point of safe exploration. On November 2nd, 2 of the 4 missing men were located. They were found at a trailhead 17 miles southeast of their original campsite, on the opposite side of the ridge. Both men were alive, but severely disoriented. Neither was wearing shoes. One had significant lacerations on his hands and forearms. The other was unresponsive and had to be carried to the vehicle. When interviewed at the district hospital, neither man could account for the period between the evening of October the 27th and their recovery on November 2nd. The man with lacerations stated only that he remembered waking up in the dark and that the ground was wet. He said he could not tell if he was inside or outside. The other 2 members of the party have not been located as of the date of this report. 17 miles on the other side of the ridge. I know that terrain. You cannot walk 17 miles over a mountain ridge in Colorado in late October without shoes. Not in the dark. Not in 2 days. Not without gear. The exposure alone would kill most people, unless they did not go over the ridge, unless they went under it. But that is not what the report says. The report says the cave was only explored to 120 feet. The report says no evidence was found, so maybe there is another explanation. Maybe they walked out a different way, got turned around, ended up on the wrong side of the mountain. It happens. That is the thing about these files. There is always a maybe. But then, I found what was behind the report. Tucked behind the typed report was a single sheet of notebook paper. It was not signed, but the handwriting matched notes in other files attributed to Ranger Machen. This was not part of the official report. This was something he wrote for himself, or for whoever came next. I am writing this separately, because I do not know how to include it in the official report, and I do not think I should. This is the 3rd time. In 1958, a married couple disappeared from the Elk Basin Trail. Their camp was found intact, boots inside the tent. The woman was recovered 6 days later at a fire road 11 miles south, across the drainage, in a state of severe confusion. She could not explain how she got there. She said she remembered a sound like wind, but there was no wind. Her husband was never found. In 1963, a solo backpacker vanished near the same ridge. His tent was found. His boots were inside. His body was recovered 3 weeks later in a ravine 9 miles to the east. Cause of death was exposure. He had lacerations on both hands, similar to those I observed on the survivor from the October incident. The coroner noted calcite fragments embedded in the lacerations, like cave rock. This detail was not included in the final report. 3 incidents. Same ridge. Same pattern. Camp found intact. Boots left behind. People turning up miles away on the other side of the drainage or not turning up at all. And now the cave. I requested approval to organize a full cave survey. The request was denied. I was told the cave was a known feature and had been assessed as non-significant. I pulled the assessment file. There was no assessment on record. I do not know what is in that cave. I am not saying it is anything other than geology. Caves connect. Water moves through limestone. It is possible that confused, injured people could wander into a cave system and emerge somewhere else. But the boots. Every time, the boots are left behind. People do not take off their boots in the backcountry at night in October and walk away. Not once. Not 3 times across 16 years. Something is pulling them out of their camps. Something they follow willingly enough to leave everything behind. Or something that does not give them time to put their shoes on. That is where the note ends. No signature. No date. Just those last 2 lines. Something they follow. Or something that does not give them time. The ranger wanted it to be geology. You can feel that in how he wrote it. He listed the facts. He offered the rational explanation. Caves connect. Water moves through limestone. He wanted to stop there. But he could not. Because the pattern was too clean. Too consistent. The boots. Every single time. I understand that. Because I have been sitting with these files doing the same thing he did. Looking for the explanation that makes it all make sense. Telling myself it is just coincidence. And every time I almost believe it, I find something else. The last page in the folder is a single-page internal memo. Different typewriter than the incident report. Different paper. This was not written by Ranger Machen. Internal memorandum. Date: March 6th, 1975. From District Superintendent. To Station 11C, a personnel file. Incident report, Elkins Creek, filed November 14th, 1974. The above referenced report has been reviewed by this office. The report is detailed and thorough. However, certain speculative elements do not meet the standard for official documentation and should not have been committed to paper. Ranger Machen has been reassigned to administrative duties at the district office, effective immediately. His request for a cave survey of the Elkins Creek site has been reviewed and denied. The cave entrance referenced in the report has been assessed and sealed as of February 1975 due to safety concerns. All supplementary materials attached to the original report have been removed from the file. This memo serves as the final documentation of the Elkins Creek matter. No further investigation is warranted. Do not file. They sealed the cave. They reassigned the ranger. And they stamped the file. Do not file. The same words that are on every folder in this box. I keep coming back to Ranger Machen. He saw the pattern. 3 incidents over 16 years. All on the same ridge. He filed the report. He requested the survey. And they shut him down, sealed the cave, and moved him to a desk. I looked through the rest of the box after I read this file. His name appears in 3 other folders. I have not read them yet. There is one more thing. The ridge described in this report. The limestone. The high meadow. The cave entrance at the base of the formation. I did not realize it the first time I read this, years ago. But when I went back and looked at the district map in the front of the folder, I recognized the drainage, the contour lines, the position of the station relative to the ridge. The Ranger station where Machen was posted in 1974 is not the same station where I found the box, but it is in the same district, 11 miles away. The station I was sent to renovate in '96 had been abandoned since the late '70s. Nobody ever told me why. That was the first file. These are the buried archives.